I'm not usually someone who can get swept away by nostalgia, but X-Men 97 made me feel some type of way. Hearing that opening guitar riff sent me back to when I was 6 years old and eating cereal on a Saturday morning. So no, Disney Plus, you're out of your mind if you think I'm touching that skip intro button. It's not just the opening that mirrors the original, but with just slight changes. The show was everything I wanted it to be, and frankly, all my love for the X-Men was showcased perfectly in these first 2 episodes. Cyclops is taken seriously, Magneto is handled perfectly, we get more X-Men who needed to be brought to the spotlight, like Sunspot. Many huge teases for major moments are still to come, and no spoilers, but all I'm gonna say is if you know, you know. I want to talk about my love for this show forever, but I also want to get into how we're in an animation boom right now. There's always been this idea that cartoons are just for kids, particularly from the executives that oversee these shows, and yet there hasn't been a single subgenre of animated shows hit harder by this perception of kids' content than the superhero show. So the medium has been filled with television shows that are made specifically to sell toys to kids, or the quote-unquote adult cartoons that, let's be honest, they're still made with the sense of humor of a teenage boy, and yet there have always been these great shows that have used the medium of animation to tell great stories that could only be told through animation, and the best ones manage to straddle that line to keep the execs happy by keeping the kids happy, and making the parents also want to watch along. The DC shows by Bruce Timm, or most Marvel shows of the 90s, just to name a few. But if they didn't move enough merchandise, those series probably got quickly canceled. And for the most part, that mentality is gone. We already know that Marvel has big plans to continue the Marvel animated side of the MCU, and James Gunn's big DC relaunch includes many projects like Creature Commandos, which will be animated. But there are plenty of superhero shows out there that could follow X-Men 97's lead and make a comeback in an era that would appreciate it a lot more. Here are 6 of my picks for superhero shows that could use a revival. Number 6, SpiderMan the Animated Series. If we got the return of one of the all-time great animated series from the 90s, the most obvious response would be to bring back the other Marvel animated show that would arguably be on par with how beloved and impactful the X-Men series was. And that would be with the return of SpiderMan the Animated Series. Even the naming convention of X-Men 97, because, the show ended in 1997, would also work if they wanted to call the show SpiderMan 98, the year that show ended. And even sticking with X-Men 97's plan to only use stories that would have been around at the time of the original series, there are still plenty more Spider-Man arcs that the 90s series hasn't even touched. It could pick up on Spider-Man searching the Spider-Verse for Mary Jane. It could work in Spider-Man No More. And it could even tackle Planet of the Symbiotes if they wanted to rework how Null would eventually show up in the modern comics. They haven't even touched Torment, which is still the first comic to sell 1 million copies. The only problem is that it would completely brush aside Spider-Man Unlimited. But let's be honest, no one would really mind that much. And it'd probably mess up their plans for Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, so it's probably not as guaranteed as I would think. Number 5, Static Shock. If we want to talk about shows that were way ahead of their time, massively successful, and ultimately canceled because they didn't sell enough toys, yeah, there's only one show that needs to be in this discussion: Static Shock. Every other show focused on the grand theatrics of the superheroes, putting them on a pedestal that is aspirational, but not exactly relatable. Static was one of the few kid-centered heroes that was actually on the ground level, seeing how the people of the superhero world lived, and seeing that they still struggle with many of the same ugly issues we face in our real world. But it also highlighted many of the great things about many walks of life that I think deserve to be celebrated. I can only imagine how it'd be just as impactful for kids who are unhoused, or kids struggling with dyslexia, or hell, kids having to deal with racism at such a young age, can have a show that actually addresses these matters head on, in a way that every child could understand, in a way that doesn't condescend to them just because they're kids. I do unfortunately need to place this low on the list, because I don't think it could happen without the late great Dwayne McDuffie at the helm, and it would take a true master of their craft to follow in his massive footsteps. Number 4, The Tick. Now possibly the weirdest show to have to explain to somebody who wasn't there for it. The Tick was one of the most bizarre superhero shows that parodied all the established superhero tropes and heroes, while also being a good comic and series in its own right. He's a nigh invulnerable superhero who can't be stopped by any villain. But he's also an escaped mental patient who has no idea what he's actually doing, and his sidekick is literally just some random guy off the street with no powers named Arthur. It was very out there, and it was more in line with shows like Ren and Stimpy rather than Ninja Turtles. So obviously it got made a lot more kid-friendly when it went to Fox Kids, but that doesn't mean it was bad by any means, just different. It was still riffing on all the heroes that we know and love, and funny enough, this is also where Christopher McCulloch, better known as Jackson Public, the co-creator of Venture Brothers, got his start, and you can see much of the same humor that he'd later be known for. And yeah, as it's going to be a running theme throughout this video, it didn't sell toys and it was eventually scrapped. They did try to shop it around to Comedy Central because adults loved the show more than the kids did, and it paired very well with early South Park, but Nope. It had a 2001 live-action series with Patrick Warburton, who was the most perfect casting choice in any superhero project. And then Amazon rebooted it in 2016 for 2 seasons. The reboot, again, wasn't bad. It just tried to focus on its own story without tapping into any of its parody roots. And in a time when people are getting tired of superheroes, now is the perfect moment to rip the medium apart again. Number 3, Marvel Anime. So sometime in 2024, we're supposed to be getting Suicide Squad Isekai. I'm sure people are excited about it. I'm just not. I don't know if it's that the Suicide Squad has been overplayed for DC projects, the Joker and Harley Quinn relationship really needs to address all of the red flags, or that Isekai is just an uninspiring genre of anime in my opinion. I'm just meh. But what was my jam was the 4 12-part series that was Marvel Anime that aired on G4 TV in 2010 and 2011. Created by Warren Ellis, Marvel Anime had seasons for Iron Man, Wolverine, X-Men, and Blade, and it's hard to describe them as if they were distinct series or if it's more of an anthology with each season following a different hero. So for the sake of this video, I'm just going to lump them together American Horror Story style. Each season is reverent to both the comic book source material and the anime genre that inspired it. Iron Man paid homage to mecha series like Gundam. Wolverine was an action series about him taking down the Yakuza. X-Men was a mature Sentai series that actually treated Cyclops with some respect. And Blade is such an underappreciated gem that you need to see. It was Demon Slayer before Demon Slayer was a thing. If DC is going to go all out with its anime projects, which seems like it's going to be a thing, Marvel should respond by bringing back Warren Ellis. The dude has only gotten better since the last time he worked for Marvel. Number 2, Teen Titans. Set in its own little pocket outside of the DC animated universe, it was the perfect show for Cartoon Network's after-school block. It gave the team actual supervillains and stories that felt on par with what was going on with the Justice League. But we also got the complexity of the human element that truly made us care for the ensemble team. What was once a ragtag group of sidekicks and kid heroes, we follow them not just as they fought Slade, aka Deathstroke because of censorship reasons, but we also got to see them back at Titan Tower, just having fun and being friends. We loved this iteration of the team so much that most people forget that it's not actually the original lineup. It's not even the 1980s relaunch of the new Teen Titans, because that version also had Kid Flash and Wonder Girl. There's been many attempts to recapture the lightning in the bottle that was Teen Titans. There was Justice League vs. the Teen Titans and Teen Titans Judas Contract, which were direct-to-video films that were just fine. Teen Titans Go, which isn't as bad as the internet makes it out to be, but it's definitely a different age demographic that I am definitely not. And then there was the live-action Titans show, which had a huge cyborg-shaped hole missing from it, but thankfully he was over in Doom Patrol, the much better of the two shows. And Young Justice was great, but it just didn't have this spark, you know? There is a newly announced series called Beast Boy Lone Wolf, which seems to be taking inspiration from Cami Garcia's phenomenal run with the Teen Titans. It's possibly the best work for Beast Boy outside of the 2000s cartoon. If that's the show, I'm totally on board. Number 1, Spawn. Spawn walked so other adult comic book properties could run. Spawn was different. It wholly embraced its darker, edgier roots and made no concessions to advertisers or studio executives. The series was one of the earlier original programs on HBO, and the show could get away with anything it wanted to. Cursing, blood, violence, nudity, you name it. It was far from perfect and leaned into the adult nature a little bit too much, which, let's be honest, was actually standard fare for anything comic book related in the 90s. Yet, it still had some outstanding episodes and stories that were sprinkled into all that blood, gore, death, and destruction. It only had 3 seasons and then was quickly forgotten about. Todd McFarlane has tried for years to get a sequel series or reboot in the works, but nothing seemed to stick. With the success of Image's other properties like Invincible and Walking Dead, another crack at McFarlane's creation could be handled with a lot more nuance today than all the over-the-top edginess for the sake of edginess it needed to have in the 90s. And that's my list. What other animated superhero shows would you like to see make a comeback? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this week's video, please hit that like button and subscribe for more weekly content on comic books and nerd stuff. I've been Eric, and you've been awesome.